Welcome to the Cape Coral City Council Committee of the Whole meeting. Today is August 12th, 2026. This meeting now comes to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, Your Honor, before I call the roll, I would like to announce that Councilmember Kadook will be arriving after roll call, and I will mark her so. Mayor Gunter?
Here.
Council members Donnell?
Here.
Kilrain?
Here.
Lastra?
Here.
Lehman?
Here.
Long?
Here.
Steinke?
Here.
7 present, 1 excused.
Okay, just a reminder, anyone wishing to speak during citizens input, please remember to fill out a comment card. The city clerk will be picking those up. Item 5 is citizens input. Citizens input is a maximum of 60 minutes set for the input of citizens on matters concerning city government. 3 minutes per individual. Please remember to state your name for the record. Madam City Clerk, you can go ahead and call your first individual.
Jennifer Alvarez Wada and Linda Grasshorn.
Jennifer Alvarez Wada, Northwest Cape. First of all, I want to thank Take Out the Trash for exposing all the corruption from this council and mayor. I want to talk about last week and what had happened, how we would not get our chance to speak. I would suggest that you take a lesson from the board of Lee County. Lee County, what they do is they count all the comment cards and they divide it as if any individual would get at least a minute, okay? These people up here did not give us that chance to do that. And I don't even know if that's right or not, but it's disgraceful, okay? Also, I'm here to talk about the budget for next year. $1.47 billion is ridiculous. We got homestead exemption. Hopefully that will pass. We've got continuous money spending on the East Bimini Beast project, where I was reading about it and I had a question about this 95% tax rebate until the year of 2042. Okay, this is disgusting. Okay, here we are paying up the ears for our taxes, and this guy here is giving businesses 95% tax rebate for 15 years. Okay, this is just unbelievable, and we need to wake up people, and this guy just throws our money away like it's not his. I also want to talk about a letter to Tallahassee that Gunter sent begging the governor not to pass it as it would be a disaster for the city. Okay, if he was a real leader, he would have not have done that. Okay, another thing on Wink News, what does he do as a leader? He gets the fear in us and says he's going to cut police and fire, which we know that is all BS, as those are your buddies. And those 20 people that spoke last week, let me tell you, they're as evil as you. That's right. They didn't even discuss any accountability, any transparency. They're not going to get you to win. You're going to go down, buddy, and you need to go.
This is not a campaigning event.
Oh,
We're
last
here to
thing,
talk
let's vote for Lisa
We're
Cohen
here to
Atkinson.
talk
Thank
about
you.
city business only. Let me remind everybody, we do not talk about any campaigning. That's not what this venue is. It's city business only. So just will make sure that's clear. Go ahead with your next speaker.
Linda Grasshorn and Wes Owen.
Good morning. I'm Linda Grasshorn, and my husband, Joe Grasshorn, is one of 2 disabled veterans in our community. My husband and I are retired residents of West Cape Estate. We've lived in the community for 11 years. I'm asking the City Council to consider the impact that the demand for West Cape Estate to connect to municipal water and wastewater system project would have on the homeowners in the community before voting to litigate. West Cape Estates is a small community with only 27 homes. Based on a quote obtained from the engineering company responsible for the North 2 utility expansion project, the estimated cost for each homeowner to be connected to the water and sewer is approximately $150,000. As you may or may not know, West Cape Estate residents are required to shoulder the entire cost plus managing the project. For many of us, the amount is simply not financially realistic. As the wife of a disabled veteran, we live on a fixed income, and the possibility of having to take on a financial burden of this magnitude is extremely concerning. It would threaten the financial security of homeowners who have worked and planned for years to remain in their homes. I respectfully ask the council to consider whether litigation against West Cape Estates is the appropriate action. Litigation will be costly and will place an additional financial burden on both the city and the homeowners. I would like to point out also that our homes are not relying on conventional septic tanks. Every home in West Cape Estates is required to have an aerobic treatment unit, an ATU, which is an individual wastewater treatment system. These systems are including regular inspection service. Homeowners are required to maintain service contracts, and the systems are inspected twice a year, with the results information reported to the Florida Department of Health. Additionally, every home in our community has its own well. Having 11 years experience using the system qualifies me to report that the water quality is perfect and the ATU works every time. You're trying to fix something that is not broken. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. And sir, we use the other podium.
Yeah, I know. I'm just waiting for it.
Yep.
Thank you. Good morning, Council. Wes Owen. Last time I spoke before this council, I spoke and I called the 27 budget lazy and amateurish. Now I'm here to show you some of the reasons I raised those concerns. You each should have a copy of this presentation. 3 minutes isn't enough to review it, so it's designed to stand on its own. It will also be available on Cape Coral Data Book's Facebook page. Every number comes from the city's proposed budget. The general fund increases by $22.5 million in 1 year. That's 8.6%. Police and fire spending still increases after council said no to the additional public safety spending proposal by an additional over $27 million. Rachel said public safety will bankrupt this city. She is wrong. Public safety will not bankrupt this city. You will if you vote for this budget. The city's forecast shows recurring general fund revenues does not cover expenditures. The gap begins at $5.9 million in year one, reaching $37.2 million by 2031. Over 5 years, the city projects nearly $100 million in fund balance use. This matters because the city's financial policies require a structurally balanced budget and says recurring municipal services should not be funded with reserves or other non-recurring revenue. These are not my standards. These are your standards. And this is before the proposed projected impact and property tax relief. The final slide shows where this road leads. This is a train wreck waiting to happen. You know it's coming. Will this council stop it or endorse it? I'm not asking you to take my word for it. Read the presentation, check the city's numbers. Before you vote, answer the questions it raises, because every taxpayer matters. Thank you.
Thank you.
Heads are down, by the way.
Jim Jeske and Rob Robinson.
Good morning, Mayor, City Council. Hope you're all having a good morning. My name is Jim Jeske, representing Southwest Cape Coral Action Committee. As in my previous meetings and my email detailed, I am here requesting a resolution to add the following line to hierarchy CU conditional use. The City Council must be notified at the time of original request for a permit. At our previous City Council meeting, we talked about how our new City Council person was not aware of the 7-Eleven application for permit until after it was approved. Under hierarchy conditional use, there are about 7 additional conditions that must be met before issuing a permit for a gas station on property zoned commercial. To approve a permit for a gas station on Four Corners, a couple of those conditions must not have been considered. Those conditions require a gas station must be in a commercial district and have a buffer to single-family residents. A 7-Eleven at Santa Barbara and Gleason was compared. That location has vacant land on both residential sides. Those houses were permitted in 1988, 1986, and 1987. Cape Coral created land use and zoning in 1989. There is an actual commercial district from Veterans to Gleason. That area is a major retail commercial district. There is no comparison. A few feet of landscaping is not a buffer. It will not hide a 6-island, 24-hour gas station. It was mentioned that Senate Bill 180 might prevent doing anything that would impede permitting. That bill refers to damaged property from certain hurricanes. All I'm asking is for a single line of communication that City Council be notified to prevent surprises for current and new City Council members. This will not slow down permitting. As I stated, adding one line to hierarchy conditional use, CU. There is no downside for City Council. Open communication, awareness of what is being built in your district, no surprises. Thank you for your interest and your action. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Good morning, Council. My name is Rob Robinson. I'm an attorney and I represent West Cape Community Estates Community Association. I practiced law, local government law for 36 years in Southwest Florida. 15 of those, I was a city attorney for Northport. So I am familiar with utility connection issues. During my time as a local government attorney, I have found that the 2 most difficult things you could ask local elected officials to do is 1, raise the millage, or 2, vote to sue your constituents. Today, you're being asked to consider the latter, which is whether or not to file suit against either the association and or all of the residents, 26 lot owners within the association and within the community to hook up to city water and sewer. You've heard the initial cost estimates are about $4 million, $150,000 a home. I think there'll be some additional after the fact contributions required for the main lines that run on Burnt Store as a result of your resolution that you passed in 2017, which I think is 104, section 3.08, which had originally exempted West Cape from any contributions for that main line unless there's a connection. I've not heard anybody or have I seen anything relative to whether there are bond obligations that would require you to force a connection. And if there are not, then that would be a discretionary decision on your part. You've been given parts of the original development agreement. The original developers, West Cape Development Group LLC, it is now defunct and has been for almost 20 years. That development agreement is 26 years old. I would point out in section Roman numeral 4B, there's a section there that provides that the development order is binding on the developer, and that those portions of this development order which clearly apply only to the project developer shall not be construed to be binding upon future owners of project lots. It shall be binding upon any builder/developer who acquires tracts of lands within the estate. So the question that had to be answered is whether a $4 million mandatory connection clearly applies only to the project developer, now defunct, or does it apply to the association and to each lot owner? I would point out my clients have never signed that agreement. Most of them didn't own the properties when that was done back in 2000. City Code Section 19-2.5 doesn't seem to help you much here, considering that the connections have to be abutting to the highway or the road, or they have to be within 200 feet. So that would cover about 6 of the 26 lots there. You've heard that there's an ATU system that was mandated by the city. It is permitted through the state and inspected, I think, twice a year, an aerobic treatment unit as it is known. So there are no safety issues associated with a septic system that might be here. There's also, they have wells here which will continue to be utilized for purposes of irrigation, even if there's a potable service connection. Thank you.
David Scott and Tom Shadrack.
Good morning. My name's David Scott. I live in Northwest Cape Coral, and I don't even know where to start. I think I'll start with last week. I got the call from the gal that was organizing the speakers to come and say positive things about the city, which would have been easy to do because I do love the city, like every one of those speakers that were up here, but I had to decline because there's several things that are going on with the current administration that I do not agree with. I also found it very notable that the name with the greatest name recognition that was announced didn't show up. He was the first guy I called several months ago before I embarked on this great mission of the rowing club. Anyway, I'm here to talk about last week and the week before that when you discussed the CDD issue for the 7 islands. I asked that that decision be postponed, given the facts that had evolved on the 7 islands with the removal of the mangroves. I had given 2 council members here my objections to the development agreement, 60-25, specifically the default aspects of this development contract. I don't know who negotiates these things. Who's on our side? My initial problem with this was it was so one-sided. Now we get a developer in here that's making a statement with what he did, with the removal, the purposeful removal of those mangroves. He brought in 2 excavators. Had the call not been made, Island 7 would have been completely denuded, and probably Island 6 before anybody would have stopped it. So you've got a development agreement now that's so incredibly one-sided, specifically the default clauses in this. When you guys go to negotiate another one of these things, you always have to look at what happens to the entity that you bring in here if they default, if they go belly up, just like this last speaker mentioned. That's what happened there. It always provides for your land to return back, get the title to the property back. That was the main flaw with this. Now we've got an entity in here that turns out hasn't been charged yet, but they committed a felony. They're going to be years behind on this project. And it's this very flawed agreement that you can now use as a hammer. You have to participate with these guys. And if you don't, you can greatly delay this project. And these are the wrong people for a project of this scale. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Tom Shadrack, permanent resident. Couple things. First of all, I'm wearing a Coral Oak shirt, so I'm supporting the city, not my campaign, so hope that's okay. I got my assessment notice today, or this week, of all the assessments on Cape Coral. And again, I've kind of made a point about this, and again, a lot of us that come here, we do talk about agenda topics and things without being negative. So I didn't appreciate being lumped in with just coming up here and complaining. But I will talk about, I've been talking about this for years, that this is really an inadequate information. It doesn't compare to what we were charged last year. It doesn't do the math of how many EBUs for the fire service assessment, how that was derived. The math line that had to be created. So the data is there, but you could put it on the form and compare it to last year. I had to go find my paper copy from last year to see what the difference was. And thank goodness, I only got 2 EBU increases on tier 2 on on the fire service assessment. So, but it just should be on the form. There's no reason for that. We get our trim notice and all that data is on one sheet of paper that you can compare. So why don't we with our assessments? Thanks again for that part. My other item, did talk about Bimini East. Been shared some financial analysis that was done. And just like it was talked about Seven Islands, this is extremely lopsided towards the developer. He doesn't have to pay $2 for that property until he gets his first horizontal permit. He has to pay $1 for that whole property that we'll have invested $57 million in. But he doesn't have to do anything until he desires that it's going to be economically doable. So just look at the data, please. If you still decide to go through with it, at least you understand the lopsidedness of the deal. That's all I can ask, is that you actually make a decision based on financial analysis. I think I'll stop there. Sorry if I have to leave, got another commitment, but I will listen to your responses if you give me any. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jay Higgins and Chardane Seifert.
I'm Jay Higgins, District 6. And a lot of what's been said already, I have to concur with. I'd like to see a change in the citizens' input. Count the cards, divide the time up equally. People come, they come here to talk to you. This is the most powerful place they have in the city to speak to you guys. And to shut 22 people out last week was terrible. I think citizens should get precedent over non-citizens. Even if you used to be a council person and you move out of town, you go to the back of the line. Let the citizens speak first. Do it equally and fairly. Thank you. I also want to thank people like Wes here and Tom that dig into these numbers, especially about Bimini. I think it's great. I'm also a member of the Parks and Rec Stakeholders Group. How many people know that we have a stakeholders group for Parks and Rec? How many of you guys know that? We had a meeting Monday. We meet 4 times a year. And we're pretty invisible because we have no authority, no power. We can't even hardly make recommendations. But I will tell you that it was reported that several of the youth groups did reach out to some of the people and said they are willing to pay higher fees. They didn't realize how expensive it was to light those fields. Also, as a cost-saving measure, that the Northwest softball will change to LEDs. It'll help with the power price as well and reduce light pollution. But I also want to report that we talked about Four Freedoms Park, and the consensus there, even with staff, was that the city should own that property and should not give it up. We lack green space downtown. We need more green space. We should hold on to this property. CRA in the Bimini East thing. I keep hearing that the CRA is going to pay for everything. Well, I got to tell you, it seems to me that with 700 to 900 more residential units. We're going to need more police, more fire. We might need a fire boat. We might need taller equipment to fight fires at a taller building. That affects me as a taxpayer. It does affect me. It's not the CRA. It's also citizens as well. What about the sewage? They said the sanitary sewer is going to be big enough for the capacity. Where's the studies? We'd like to see them. They said there's been studies. We'd like to see the numbers. I'm a construction guy. I can read it. I can digest it and understand what it means. Real quick, I only got 15 seconds. I had too much stuff. We shouldn't pay the 11 million for the remaining properties. The developer shouldn't be taken out of the 26 whatever million that we're asking. We should get more money for the property. It's a lopsided deal, like it was spoken before. And the CRA board should consist of members of this that live in the CRA.
Thank you.
If they're the ones that are going to be paying. Thank you.
Good morning, Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Chardane Seaford. I live in the Northwest area, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm here because I care deeply about Cape Coral, and particularly the Northwest Cape Coral. Very passionate about the future of the Northwest, and I want to begin by saying I do support the council and the very difficult work that you're always asked to do. My comments are not intended to criticize, they're intended to ask, in regards to the potential lawsuit against West Cape Estates, is this really a fight our city needs to have? West Cape Estates is a private community with private streets. Its residents maintain their own community and have historically, for decades, taken responsibility for the infrastructure and the services within it. The UEP infrastructure has already passed West Cape Estates. The question now is whether the city should pursue litigation against those residents to force connection. I respectfully ask, what do we gain by doing that? Litigation costs money. It consumes staff time, it creates uncertainty, and most importantly, it creates another source of conflict between citizens and the city government at a time when we can least afford more division. Cape Coral has been through enough. We have frustration in the community, we have political tension, we have residents looking to their elected officials for stability and sound judgment. This property is also not currently connected to the UEP, and the cost to residents to bring utilities in would be so consequential that it will financially devastate many of the homeowners. In effect, citizens would be forced to pay millions of dollars upfront to connect, an outcome that places an unfair financial burden on them and is not what this framework was designed to do. There's also legal precedent throughout the state of Florida in similar circumstances where cities have been required to connect utilities, but courts have consistently recognized variances based on property size, development type, and unique conditions. This is not a one-size-fits-all issue. West Cape Estates has operated again for decades in its current form. The simplest and most reasonable solution is to allow that longstanding status to remain as it is without creating a precedent that could ripple across other private communities and future private communities in Cape Coral. We should be very mindful of that precedent. Once the city chooses to sue in a case like this, it sets a tone that will extend far beyond West Cape Estates. I believe that we can and should do better. The Northwest has tremendous potential, believe in it, very passionate, as you can see. And I would love to see the City Council focused on strengthening Cape Coral, not engaging in unnecessary legal battles that deepen division. So today I respectfully ask each of you, please do not sue West Cape Estates. Choose stability over litigation, choose restraint over escalation, and please consider the dangerous precedent that this would set during an already tense and divided time in our local politics. Thank you for your time, your service, and your consideration.
Thank you.
Dan Root and Marie Kavanaugh.
Good morning, Mayor and council members. My name is Dan Root. I'm a resident of West Cape Estates. My family purchased a home in mid-2025. Before buying, we performed rigorous due diligence, including title searches and municipal checks. We confirmed through official city documents, maps, system records that West Cape Estates was explicitly exempt from city utility mandates. West Cape Estates does not use standard septic tanks, as others have mentioned. Our 28-home community uses state-permitted advanced wastewater treatment systems such as aerobic treatment units monitored by onboard computers, inspected multiple times per year, and requiring mandatory state service contracts. Together with our private wells and reverse osmosis systems, these represent an investment per household exceeding $60,000. Just 6 months after we moved in, the city issued a demand letter forcing our volunteer-run HOA to engineer, permit, and install a massive civil utility project by June 1st. On April 6th, the city attorney threatened code enforcement and liens against our individual homes. The total economic impact per household between ripping out paved roads, destroying newly built state-approved utility systems, paying unqualified municipal hookup fees could exceed $150,000 to $200,000 per home. This is the textbook definition of an inordinate burden with zero special benefit. This brings me to Resolution 10417, which was conveniently omitted from the city's agenda backup files today. Section 308A2 of Resolution 10417 explicitly states West Cape Estates is a private gated residential subdivision and shall not be subject to the assessments contemplated hereunder. Furthermore, the resolution establishes that utility fees are only triggered in the event owners apply for the city provision of central utility services. Furthermore, every lot in our neighborhood is individually listed by strap number and as excluded in Appendix D. West Cape Estates has never applied for central service. Mayor, council members, we are not asking for special treatment. We are asking the city to honor its own legislative record. Forcing 28 families to sign a financial blank check for millions of dollars while forcing us to destroy state-permitted, fully functional private infrastructure is unfair, unlawful, and unnecessary. As outlined on page 2 of your staff report today, you have a clean, legally defensible off-ramp. Vote to amend Plan Development Ordinance 2003, uphold Resolution 10417, and allow West Cape Estates to remain on
Thank you.
private systems.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, my name is Marie Kavanaugh. First thing I want to address is the sad display last week during citizens' input. We've done some records requests and we are currently looking to see if there are any ethics violations. And then when I came in, there was, a fair line. That's fine, that's fine. I get up there, they open my purse, they take out my glasses case, okay? And they open my glasses case to look at it. And in there I have my little wiping rag for the lenses. They actually took the thing out and shook it. What on earth am I trying to hide? When I mentioned this downstairs today, because this time I just threw the thing over there, you might have plastic explosives in there. I mean, come on. Are you people that worried about your safety? Well, anyway, on to Bimini East. I started going through the packet that you presented, and I found a couple of, well, more than a couple, but I can only have time to probably address the one of them. I'm currently going through the whole thing. There are so many things in there that are screw up. I really seriously wonder who's looking at this stuff. If you look at the term sheet, non-binding term sheet, under 17A, this, and I need clarification on this, as does every citizen. The city shall purchase and acquire fee simple title to George's Garage and the Trumbull Apartments for the purchase price of $5,500,000 per property. The total cost is $11 million. But then you go to the PowerPoint presentation that the developer put out, and it says, city will purchase and acquire the automotive shop and 3 multifamily structures at the developer's negotiated price, $11 million, and convey to the developer for the appraised value, which is $25 a square foot. Now, why are they saying we're buying 4 properties for $11 million in one document and only 2 properties for $11 million in the term sheets. This is just the beginning. This whole thing is a royal mess, an absolute royal mess. And somebody needs to look very carefully at who is looking at this stuff and reviewing this stuff before it's put out. I don't know if it's the city attorney's office, but if it is, he's not earning his money. If it's the city manager's thing, they're not doing their job. I don't know if they don't have a checklist. I don't know what they're doing, but nothing matches.
Thank you.
Kim Binkley Sear and Rick Jacobs.
Good morning. Hope you all are doing well this morning. I wanted to bring to your attention that some issues with your sign code. And look, writing sign code is very difficult and things can be missed. However, the current sign code does not allow a multifamily property to use typical marketing methods that are common for the industry, such as banners and feather banners. Banners that might say now leasing or now open or move-in specials or what have you. These are all very common things that are used at apartment complexes. It's my understanding when the code was written in 2013, there was a giant carve out, which is very obvious for the home builders. The home builders are allowed to use all the typical marketing tools of banners, feather banners, additional signage, and what have you. So what I am asking for is that you take a look at the sign ordinance and you make them equal, because you're penalizing the investors who build apartments. You're penalizing their properties, which is unfair. They're investors in the county, in the city. And I think that if the home builder is able to use the banners and what have you, the multifamily properties should be allowed to use the exact same tools that they're using, which, by the way, are effective and necessary. And the last thing you want is for property not to be successful, not to be full, because nobody wins if the property goes back to the bank. So you'll have staff making a presentation to you today at 6A4. Staff is recommending against opening this up, and I'm asking you to make it fair. If it was good for the home builder, it certainly should be good for the multifamily properties. This doesn't have to be a total rewrite of the code. It could be changed very, very simply. It could probably be changed in 2 sentences. But I know the city knows that the banners are effective because the city allows banners in their CRA districts. So you pay for those banners to be changed because they're effective and they bring business, and it's an important part of how they do business. So I think that we need to balance things out a little bit more and be a little bit more equitable in the sign code. So I ask that you consider instructing staff to make some simple changes and allow the properties who have invested in this market to succeed. The rule of marketing in apartments is if there are no signs or what have you, it is usually an indication that the property is full. And staff, in trying to work with them, their recommendation was use more electronic media. Already happening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor and Council, thank you for a few minutes this morning. My name is Rick Jacobs. I'm the Executive Director at 4Kids of Southwest Florida. I want to ask you to imagine for just a moment a child that is being placed into foster care and walking through that trauma, and then realizing that you're also going to be separated from your brothers and your sisters. Unfortunately, this is the reality for many large sibling groups that get placed into foster care. At 4Kids, we believe this does not have to happen. We're asking the city of Cape Coral to potentially donate one of its available city lots so that we can build a home specifically designed to keep large sibling groups together. And there is something very important I want you to know about this request. It's not an experiment for us. 4Kids has been doing this for years in other parts of the state.
We have the experience to operate it. We have the relationships and the infrastructure in place to help serve these children. And what we need is an opportunity to put this plan into motion. We have a local builder right here in Cape Coral who is willing to build the home for us. We have the experience to operate it. We have foster parents to step in and lead that home. What we need is your help. It could become a place where 3 brothers and sisters don't have to be placed into 3 separate homes. A place where children wake up every morning knowing that their brother or sister is just down the hallway. And someday when those children are adults, they may not remember this council meeting. They will remember this home. They will remember staying together, and they'll remember at one of the most difficult junctures of their life, someone decided that keeping their family together was worth fighting for. So our request is really simple this morning. Would the city of Cape Coral be willing to donate one of its surplus lots to 4 kids of Southwest Florida so that together we can build a home that keeps large sibling groups together? We have the experience. We have the proven model. We have a builder who is a Cape Coral resident, who is also focusing his projects right here in this great city. A local resident who's willing to invest his time, his resources, his expertise into helping Cape Coral become a part of this amazing solution for children. We just need a piece of ground on which to build it. And I believe Cape Coral has an opportunity today to do something very special and extraordinary for children who desperately need someone to step up and make a stand for them. You have the opportunity to give these children something that the foster care system too often takes away: the ability to remain brothers and sisters together. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's the last of the comment cards.
Okay, thank you. City council, or the citizens' input is now closed. I'll open it up for any council discussion. Councilmember Laster.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you to everyone who spoke. Regarding the West Cape, we are going to be talking about that on the agenda. I know all of us have been researching this back and forth. So just stay tuned for that discussion. We'll have a very lengthy discussion regarding that. Let's see, Bimini East, those that spoke about Bimini East, we're still in the process of getting that negotiation down pat and on paper. So as the information comes to us, you can certainly do public records request or reach out to any of us. Mr. Higgins, you spoke earlier. I don't see you. Please remember, you can call us, you can email us, and you can set up meetings with us as well. This is one vehicle for residents to speak to their council members and their mayor, but you can also meet with us. You can call us, set us up. I don't think there's anybody up here who doesn't welcome that. And then let's see. I think that's it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple items to go over just to clean up a little bit. One speaker spoke about properties that were being purchased with Bimini in the agreement. Properties do not equal parcels. So when you are buying a specific owner's property, that may contain several parcels of land, all which have their own individual strap number. One speaker spoke about us allowing banners in the CRA. Our banner program is street lights. It is not feather banners. So while we do have a banner program, those are things that the city puts up there. They're not controlled by private industry. They are also not feather banners stuck in the ground in the right of way. So a distinction between those two. One speaker asked about being notified when permits are issued. I would just want to remind the community and the council that we have a Cape Coral EDO map. If you search Cape Coral EDO, which stands for Economic Development Office map, you can find every single application for any non-residential permit in the city. So you don't need to wait until the permit is issued. You can actually find out what has been applied for. And then once it's in an approved status prior to being paid, you'll see it's in an approved status. And then eventually it is issued when it's paid. So there are 3 different colors. There's yellow, orange, and green. One indicates when something has been applied for. If you click on that in parcel, you can get an expanded description. I know many members of the community love that, so there's no need to wait until the permit is issued. You can actually look anywhere in the entire city for any non-residential permit application and follow it all the way through the process. Another speaker spoke about how ridiculous our budget is at $1.51 billion. I want to give a little history lesson. The FY25 budget was the city's first ever billion-dollar budget. So just a few years ago, our city's operating budget eclipsed $1 billion. Last year, our budget jumped to $1.45 billion. And the reason it jumped to $1.45 billion was because in the preceding campaign and all of the public information documents, all the surveys that we obtained, all of the input from the community was we needed to spend more on infrastructure. So in this year's budget that we're operating under, we heard a big cry in the community. Oh my God, how did the budget jump 40 to 50% in 1 year? We went from just over $1 billion to $1.45 billion. Well, in last year's budget, we had $284.6 million budgeted for the North 3 UEP, $56.1 million budgeted for the North Water Plant expansion, $53 million for a Southwest Water Rec facility, 14.8 or $15 million for North 3 advanced drainage systems, and $13 million for Evers Headworks. This year alone, we're spending over $400 million in infrastructure. That's how your budget goes from $1 billion to $1.45 billion. We understand the concerns, we understand keeping up with growth, and we budget appropriately to make sure that we're keeping pace with that growth curve. This year's proposed budget that's coming out is $1.51 billion. That contains a $400 million Northwest Water Rec facility, a brand new facility in the North Cape to keep up with growth in the North Cape. $37 million for North 3 treatment and transmission lines, $16 million for Everest Headworks, which treats raw sewage, and another $15.5 for the North Wellfield expansion that will tie into the North water, RO plant. $468 million in infrastructure this year. So next year, when we don't have those projects and we go back to $1 billion budget, we're going to have a 30% reduction. But that's because we're not going to have those massive infrastructure projects budgeted. Not because we don't need them, just because they're not planned, they're not budgeted. So as we sit here today, plan for a north of 30% decrease in our budget next year, but for the fact that we're accomplishing $1 billion of infrastructure improvements this year and next year. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no other lights on, we'll move on to item 6, which is business. 6A is discussion with the first discussion, number 1 being special events presentation. I'll turn that over to Mr. City Manager to start with.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to ask Parks and Rec staff to present this presentation. As you know, this is informational. We've been doing this for the past several months. We're going through each division within Parks and Rec so that you all can see the quality of life programming that we provide and how they're funded. Thank you.
Morning, Mayor and City Council. This is Mike Mazzolia, Deputy Director with Parks and Recreation. Today we are going to be presenting informational session on our special events programs. And we have with us today Todd Kings, our special event supervisor, will be presenting.
Good morning, Council. Todd King, City of Cape Coral's Special Events Coordinator. Today, we're going to run through some slides, and then hopefully I can shed some light on the impact we have in our community, not only economically, but also in quality of life and what we do in the Special Events Division. We are a small, elite team, and many of you have been to our events. Many of you have experienced the experiences we provide, the memorable moments we provide for our community. And I think you can wrap your head around what it is that we do and how we do it with such an efficient way. The Special Events Committee of the Whole meeting today. The program is a discretionary quality of life service that is not required by federal law, state, or local statute, something unique to Cape Coral provided for our citizens. That's kind of a definition of what it is we're doing for our community and our residents. This is a snapshot of our budget, our revenue and expenditure, and our subsidy for the events that we produce for the community. Those events are broken down in many different categories. Obviously, the categories of the event itself, the infrastructure for tents and entertainment and things of that nature. Also, we've seen a growth and an increase in how we need to protect and provide a safe environment for our life safety group. That's our fire and police, how they want to best protect the community when they come out to enjoy what it is that we do. And so a lot of our expansion in our budget has been related to recognizing what's going on in the world and making sure that when they come to a citywide community event, they have the opportunity to have a great family experience and a safe family experience. The special events, this is what we do in special events. We actually produce events, some of the majors in our community, ones that you've attended or ones that the community has most recognized, from 4th of July on down to the bike night events. We also support city-supported events. These are events that are put on by a 501c3 group or a group that's doing a fundraising activity. They engage with our special events division directly, not only related to planning, not only related to how to execute that event, but also we have capital and infrastructure that we will roll out to support those 501c3s and those events that go on. All of these have a tremendous impact in our town, as well as economic impact for the areas they're produced in. Independent events. These are events that come into the city that do not need city support or any kind of city planning effort. They just come in, get a permit, or work through us through the permit process for a special event, and they execute their event. They're subject to all the same rules and regulations and community requirements that we have in our division, and then they come and produce that event, and the community comes out to enjoy that. And that connects us directly to the special event permitting. Every event that goes on in the city, not only city produced, but all the way down to independent groups that come out and produce events. Those require a special event permit that not only engages every department in the city, from life safety, public works, risk, and us in Parks and Recreation in the events group, to just make sure that they're on top of what it is that they're doing, not only outside events, but also ourselves, that we're developing and putting forward events that are safe and family friendly. City-produced events, general fund budget approved by City Council. You guys develop a budget, or we develop a budget that we present to you that allows us to not only execute the entertainment levels and meet the requirements as to what we're producing for the city. These engage the community, celebrate holidays, provide both adult and family-friendly experiences to our community. These events help support local groups, businesses. A hard number to measure a lot of times is economic impact, but technically, when you put a lot of people in a space, it does have a significant amount of economic impact in areas. They continue to provide the community with a positive economic impact that make Cape Coral a truly special place to live, learn, and work. Special events is the heartbeat. I think a heartbeat of a community when you see the town come out and be involved in what it is that we're producing. City-supported events. These are our 501c3 groups, our Rotary Club that does the art festival, and different fundraising groups, charitable causes. The support not only includes event planning, we get alongside of these folks. A lot of them are volunteers, never have done an event before, don't know how to negotiate or navigate through the city requirements. We come alongside of them so that they can do an amazing event for our community as well as a safe and family-friendly experience. They go through the special event permit process. Independent events, these are non-city supported events. These would just be an outside promoter that would come in, want to do a concert or want to do something at J.C. Park. They still have to go through that process and engage us to make sure that they're covering all their bases. Obviously, we run through our city-produced events. Signature events include our bike nights, our Red, White, and Boom, Sounds of Jazz and Blues, our New Year's Eve, which is growing significantly each year in and out. Tour de Cape, which is our athletic event, which is a run and bicycle ride. Holiday Boat Parade, very, very fun event down on Bimini Bay. Trunk or Treat, something that we started as a result of Hurricane Ian that engaged the city and connected with the community to provide City Hall and the City Hall space as a giant trunk or treat Halloween festival event. Holiday tree lighting, since we got the 50-foot Christmas tree on the lawn of City Hall, we built a Holiday Nights on the Lawn event around that activity, engaging choirs and families and lots of experiences for that. Veterans Day Parade, obviously recognizing our veterans. Reindeer Run, a new event that we're doing up at Coral Oaks, which engages the holiday run experience. Things along those lines. Neighborhood events, we are a postage stamp park system. So we'll take our events around the different parks. We'll do movies in the park in different community parks. And now that we have the great JC Park that's functioning well, we are working on a concert series for that beautiful amphitheater and working with a variety of different third-party promoters that'll come in and bring in entertainment and do concerts at that park. Also, different facilities run event programs. Those are all outlined here, ranging from Pee Wee Halloween all the way down the list of specific facility events that take place. City-supported events, these are events that 501c3s put on that we come alongside. I hope I've defined it pretty clearly as how we come alongside with the planning and the infrastructure and the capital equipment support. Brew Festival, Chili Cook-Off. These are sometimes put on by organizations such as the Historical Society Museum out at Cultural Park to raise money for their facility. The Chamber of Commerce does the Festival Lights on holiday on Cape Coral Parkway that is well attended and has been a longstanding tradition for our city. The Art Festival is the largest art festival in Southwest Florida, working directly with the Rotary with infrastructure and planning support. We come alongside those 501c3s as a events division. Touch a Truck, taking place on Lafayette. The list is all the way down to the Burrowing Owl Festival, which recognizes some of our, local animal neighbors, the owls, and that is well attended as well. So we support the 501c3s and help with planning and infrastructure and capital needs. We do this city-supported events partnership program. It's not just the city giving away capital or giving away our time and effort to help them plan. We did a partnership program with these because one of our needs when we do a city-produced event is that we have volunteers. We need to have a staffing level that's well beyond 5 people to execute a Red, White, and Boom or something of that magnitude. So the city benefits with our volunteer support for city-produced events. City saves overtime expenses. We're not filling that with city employees at times. Volunteer hours are tied specifically to the event. Holiday event support is valued higher. City receives recognition in the sponsorship elements. They save the 501c rental costs and savings on average of $2,000 to $4,000. They get the highly maintained city assets. These are the capital items that the city special events division uses on our major events. And that allows them to move more funding into their support or their cause. So that partnership program's been going on for a long time. In-kind support is limited to about $10,000 per event. That's including time, staffing time, and that includes the capital and infrastructure that we put out there for them. Here's a rundown of some of the city independent events that go on: the Manatee Triathlon, the Big Car Show, Oktoberfest. These are folks that come in and say, hey, we want to produce or put on an event for the Cape Coral residents in the community. The city independent events are listed there, right down to LCEC's 5K, Oktoberfest, which is a long-standing traditional event up at the German American Club. They go through the full process and the full vetting of city staff and support. And we're measuring the impact. Okay, so it is an investment. It's an investment for the council and the taxpayers to invest in these events. What it does is it gives us a tremendous amount of marketing impact. People see our advertising for our events all over the state. Southwest Florida and the Red, White, and Boom has become the largest single-day event in Southwest Florida, and it draws lots and lots of people from out of area. We do lots of what we call Placer AI and zip code in our surveying just to see where they've come from. It draws a lot of people in from out of the area. And we think it has just a tremendous amount of impact economically for the businesses along 47 Terrace, for any other businesses that come to, that take advantage of the special event that's going on in their space. Increases tax revenue, for sure. Business community engagement. Businesses have an opportunity to reach out, come and set up a tent, do their marketing, do their vendoring, to expose what it is that they have, to provide to the community and sell, and we set up an opportunity for that. Quality of life, we connect family and friends. 4th of July is the strongest event that we do. It is, again, the single day largest event in Southwest Florida, but I can't think of a better event to draw a community together than to celebrate the birthday of America, you know, and it is the quintessential community experience for folks to come down, recognize our American heritage, and just enjoy the amenities that we put down there at the bridge. Create a sense of community pride. You hear people come up and they experience a bike night or an event, and they're passionate about how they want that to go, how they want that not to change or change depending on the infrastructure and the changes we have in the growth of our city. The passion is there for folks to want to have things to do, come down and experience large-scale events in our community. We promote diversity and community engagement, and we create national and local. We're part of the national and local celebrations. Permitting, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. We go through a permit process. Every event that occurs in the city has a special event permit that is required. That engages all the departments. We review the permit, includes application. They must have the insurance naming the city additionally insured for any things along those lines. Layout and impact view. If they're planning an event in a specific area that has a too great of an impact on our flow and our traffic, we'll review that. They go through a city meeting, which engages every department. Every department gets a chance to review and look at that plan. And the event observation and compliance. So then we'll actually be there and we'll see how the event went. We'll take a look at what the impact was, and then we'll live and learn, and we'll grow through that growth with those organizers and promoters, and we'll look forward to the next year. With that, I'm available for questions about what it is we do to provide an amazing quality of life in the events that we do for our city.
Thank you, Councilmember Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. King. I'm a huge supporter for the city and what we do. One of the things we constantly hear about is from the youth. They talk about more opportunities to have items like this, and for families. I did not see on this list the Coconut Festival. So my question is, where would it fall? Was it just omitted? And what would need to happen? Because that was really big. I mean, when I looked at attendance. So question one, was it just missed on the list, or what happened to the Coconut Festival?
Currently, the festival grounds is going to be the new home for the Coconut Festival in the future. That's up off of Wilmington. It's the new festival park. We are still planning that event to move forward into the future. But at this time, budgetarily, we're not going to have that event this year. I think it will probably be on the list next year or in future years. That was a stable signature event for our community for many, many years. I've served the city as the event coordinator for 20 years, and the Coconut Festival has brought lots of memories and lots of families together for just a great event in November. So look forward to the future, Councilman, and we will we'll advance that as Festival Grounds becomes active.
Thank you. You did answer. That's all. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Steinke?
Thank you, Mayor. Todd, I know we try to, for relativity, we look at the way other cities do things and whatnot. Do we ever take a look at, from a budget standpoint, what other cities, our size, our population, what they invest in events like this, to see if we're on par with, above, or beneath other cities?
Yeah, when we benchmark events across the board in the nation in scope and size of our types of cities, cost recovery is typically around 2 to 10% on the benchmark. Being a free community event, measured out about the attendance level. And I did not mention the attendances at some of these events. We have a unique software now called Placer AI, and indulge me if I can work this in.
Yeah, sure.
Placer AI uses a locator system off of cell phones and pinging cell phones. So for the first time in events, we're actually able to track real numbers through an algorithm that adds a multiplier. So the numbers you're looking at may not have the multiplier in it, and that would be the 2 kids that don't have phones, or all the other attendees that may not be within the scope of the Placer AI. So you map a space, and then the cell signals ping the phones, and you get a broad. But back to your question, yes, when you benchmark across the nation sizes, most cost recovery lands around 2% to 10% for major free citywide community special events. And we try to build right within that. Sponsorship is always on the table to try to reach out to local community businesses that want to sponsor. The cost of life safety, the cost of the police support, all those are so large that a lot of times it falls within the 2 to 10% cost recovery on our sponsorship opportunities.
Well, thank you for that. In particular, when I look at your slide number 3, and we look at the amount of the subsidy that we've provided, that's what I was more of what I was looking at.
Right.
Is, Port St. Lucie is often used as a sister city. This is demographically around the same population, similar size, and so if we went into something like Port St. Lucie's budget, would we see this same type of subsidy that they do for their events, or would we be higher, would we be lower, or if there's other cities that we have comparables on?
When we benchmarked, it was 2 to 10% cost recovery in most comparable cities. I don't know where Port St. Lucie lands in their cost recovery for large community events. I do know that at 19, 20%, we're I think trending better than most. 3 things that actually have happened recently that have changed some of those structures. It is the advancement of having the right life safety and police support at the events that we do produce. That has also caused an increase in our budget and an increase in our subsidy. The need to create a safe environment for the families coming out from hardened venues. Some of our events are in spaces that have traffic right-of-ways, and now we've had to implement a whole hardening plan that has created a pedestrian safe space for on a right-of-way. So we've seen some of those increases. So back to your question, I do not know exactly what Port St. Lucie point. Yeah, sure.
Yes, just did a quick search, and we can research this and get you guys a comparative study on that. But Port St. Lucie spends roughly about $2 million on their special event. So we are comparable in that. And I'd also like to note here on this slide number 3 here, we have 2.2 million down here for that. You see it was an increase from 1.6 in 2025. We did include our Coconut Festival in that, which was 500,000. So being that we are not moving forward with that, that number would come down. So just want to make you aware of that as well.
Okay, thanks. And I would tell you that I've been going to the events, and you know it. You and your staff do a fabulous job. I think the citizens really enjoy the events that you put on, and some of the bigger ones where we're closing major arteries, that you get those reopened, closed at the latest moment, reopened as quickly as you can. I think y'all do a great job. And I sure hope we can continue having these types of events.
I couldn't be prouder of the team, the elite team that we have in your special events, serving the citizens in the community. And these events are big and well recognized throughout the state.
Thanks, Todd.
Councilmember Kilrain.
Yeah, Todd, I just wanted to comment and say that you guys do a fantastic job. You really stepped up the game in the last few years, both in the quantity of events that are out there and the quality of the events. You're attracting larger crowds. Incrementally, I know that requires additional costs to be able to police and make sure that they're done safely. So that's a driver that's looking for less cost recovery on our part, but it's a value thing. I hope that within this next budget requirement, and if we get into the homestead cutting necessary that we may have to do, that we can try and salvage some of these things. I think you've done a great thing with the capital.
The share program, the partnership program.
That program is a great partnership. And you've really been able to leverage the labor factor through that process. And I know that's appreciated by the other partners on the other side. I hear from many of them. And although that they sometimes have trouble picking up some of the volunteers, but it comes through well. I can just say that I've attended many of your events over the years. The passion you guys show, the commitment level that you do when they're orchestrated. I've seen you do things that begin the night before and continue the following night. So thank you for all you do. I think your staff does a great job. I just hope that we are able to maintain this in a manner that you're allowed to continue to make this grow. So thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Long.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, Todd, I'm a supporter of you and your team. Kudos to you and the staff for all you've done and continue to do. Just a personal question for me because it's bugging me. I can't place it. When was the last time that we hosted Coconut Festival?
I want to say the last one was 2018, 2019. Okay. It was at Sunsplash, and when Sunsplash kind of changed its
That's what I thought.
partnership.
And then COVID and Ian and all
and then COVID. You need to have it for an event that size and scope. You need to have a venue that can handle the parking. You need to have a venue that can handle all the elements we have in that particular event, the carnival, the concerts, and things like that. So yeah, when we ran out of the Sunsplash space, we put it on hold till we got some new infrastructure built up at Festival Grounds.
Okay, just want to make sure because I hope that's not the intention, but it seems like maybe there's some hand slapping going on with regards to it being our signature staple event, and we've reduced it from this year's budget. But the reality is we haven't had it in about 6 years. So I just want to make sure that perspective is provided as well. And I'm not saying that you're doing that, Todd, but just in the larger picture when we have these budget discussions. So thank you.
We're eager to bring it back.
Yeah.
You done?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor.
All right. Yeah, for me, Todd, you guys always do a phenomenal job, you and your staff, with the limited staff that you have. So, thank you and your staff for everything that you do. When you look at these types of community events, that's when it brings our community together, the families together. And I'm sure when all of us attend those events, we see how great that is. So hopefully we can continue and actually expand. But in doing that, Mr. City Manager, I think kind of in the line what I think Councilmember Steinke was trying to get to, it would be nice to have some data, maybe of the top 10 cities, to see what they're doing. And when I say that, in relation to what their budget is and their population. It would be nice to have some data that shows exactly what they are spending based on their budget and their population. And then also what type of corporate sponsorships or contributions that they may have to offset those events. That way we could do a comparison analysis on exactly, what other cities are doing and see where we are. I think that way we can kind of see where we rate, if we need to do, are we par with other cities or, because all of these events here, they're not revenue generators. We know that there's going to be a subsidy involved, but just for comparison to see how we rate in relation to other cities. I know we would love to put more events on, but with the financial restraints that we do have, we try to get many of those on a yearly basis that we can. So it would be nice to see that data, just kind of where we can see where we are on that spectrum. So that would be good if staff could get that available for us. That's all I have. Again, Todd, thanks for everything that you and your team does. Again, you do a phenomenal job, and thank you for all the great events we have throughout the year. Okay, with that being said, let's go ahead and move on to item 2 on the agenda, which is the Lee BIA Builders Care property donation. I'll turn it over to the city manager to start with.
Thank you, Mayor. As you know, prior to this presentation, we had a presentation from Builders Care to come in and explain what they do. And as an outfall of that presentation, we were asked to look at some properties. So as Amy was going through the 2-year requirement to identify properties for affordable housing, we set aside a couple. So aside from what we do with Habitat, we set aside some for the Builders Care. So we want to present that to you. And if it is the consensus of council after the presentation to move forward, we can put together a resolution to actually complete the donation. Thank you.
And I'll turn it over to Amy.
Good morning, Mayor, council members. For the record, Amy Yearsley with the Development Services Division. It's probably a little bit of a repeat of the city manager. The city received a request from Lee BIA Builders Care for the donation of 2 properties for the development of single-family homes. A property list was prepared. It had 10 properties on it. It is not the list that was approved at the 8-5 city council meeting. That particular list has very specific disposition requirements. So what we did was put aside 10 other lots that could potentially be used with less restrictions than the affordable housing lots. The disposition of real property is governed by the Code of Ordinances, and we believe that this falls in line with that. So what does that list look like? Again, very similar to the other list that I presented. A lot of stuff in what was Southwest 4 utility expansion area, most located in the Southwest. So these are the 10 properties that staff found, all of which are dry, all of which are between 0.23 and 0.25 acres. With that, we will leave it for discussion and staff direction.
Real quickly, just so I'm clear, and I'm sure the rest of council, these 10 parcels that you identified in that map is in addition to the 8-5 discussion that we have. Is that correct?
Right. This is a separate list. Again, the 8-5 discussion, those properties have to be used for the development of affordable housing. And that comes with strings, right? What do those strings mean? That it has to be sold to an income qualified household. That's why we utilize Habitat for that. It has to have a land restriction of some sort on it. For the purposes of our partnership with Habitat and potentially other affordable housing providers, that is either in the form of a land use restriction agreement, which runs with the land, could potentially cause some title issues moving forward, or through a lien on the property. Our partnership with Habitat runs with a lien with a right of first refusal. So we can always buy those properties back and put them back into our programs, but it does have a monetary cost associated with it.
And one last clarity question, the 10 parcels that you identified, are those parcels identified and also within item 3 here, we're going to be discussing the surplus properties, or has that been pulled out of that list?
Dawn is shaking her head yes.
They are incorporated within that list. Okay, thank you. That'll help us for a later on discussion. Councilmember Lastra.
Thank you, Mayor. I would respectfully like to ask the other 7 of you, part of this team, to consider what Mr. Jacobs spoke about as a speaker. I've been working with him for several months, and also Ms. Yearsley, to identify a property of what he stated. These other 10 lots with less restrictions, just like for the BIA purposes, Builder's Care, would also be appropriate for what he's trying to do. He's already had, as he mentioned, a local builder who's willing to build the home. It would give our city an opportunity to fill a void that sadly our state system doesn't do very well. I know many individuals who have foster children who open their homes to foster children regularly. I have 2 dear friends in Fort Myers who just adopted another foster child that they had in their home, and their first son actually had a twin. And sadly, they were separated, and because of the system sadly couldn't fix, they were not able to adopt the twin. And I mean, I'm just asking if we're going to do this for the BIA, for Builder's Care, that we could consider this as well for Mr. Jacobs' nonprofit. You know, we already have within his organization, there are already 5 Cape Coral foster families that he assists through his organization. And I just think it would be a great opportunity for us to be able to help with this problem within our city. So I'm going to ask you all, in addition to staff direction, if you could also consider this as part of staff direction. And if I need to take this on separately, or you need more information, I can certainly get that to you. But I just figure if we're doing for Builder's Care, we should also consider doing for this nonprofit as well. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Kilrain.
Yeah, just one thing I'd like to point out, a little bit of a difference between Habitat and Builder's Care, BIA Builder's Care. I think that the receiving party, the end purchaser or user of this property, BIA is, there's no mortgage that goes along with it. It's gratis builders going in there, building the thing, and they just turn it over to the needy family. And on Habitat, I know that there's a mortgage, there's some cost involved, of course, based on the affordable housing level conditions that we do. But that's a key point. So I'd be very supportive of whatever BIA is doing in this too. I think it's a good measure to continue to expand this program. So thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Steinke.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I had my light on for the same purpose that Councilmember Lastra did, but I'm wondering, has that organization is there an application process, or have they done what they need to do to be considered for that?
This is kind of new territory for us outside of what people call my list, but it's not my list, the affordable housing list. The affordable housing list, the process is that they request the properties through the city, and then we will go through and we will present them to you all and say they meet the program requirements, they're willing to meet those requirements, and then you guys decide if you're going to give them the properties. A similar process was, we don't have a formalized process. That's the quick answer, right? Lee BIA approached city and said, we would like to do this. So we said, as we're starting to go through this process, we'll bring it forward the same way we would typically bring through the affordable housing ones. And I believe that, I don't know that we received a formal request from the other agency yet, but it would follow the absolute same path.
Yeah, and so I would certainly be in favor of doing something, charitable, if you will, in that regard. Although I do believe we need to have some type of qualifications, some way to vet people the same way so that each applicant would be assessed the same way, where if there are restrictions that we have first right of refusal on sale of home or whatever. I think we definitely need to have some type of program that we can apply equally to any party, organization that would come to us to be a part of that effort. So it certainly sounds like a good cause to me. I'm very familiar with BIA Builders Care and supportive of the work that they do, which is different than Habitat for sure, as Councilmember Kilrain brought up. Definitely two different assists that are given. So I would certainly be in favor of that, but I do believe we got to have some type of criteria we establish. Thank you.
Councilmember Donnell.
Yes, you had me at when you asked Dawn, is this part of the next presentation? Certainly, I'm seeing the folks, I'm certainly supportive of the BIA and what they do for the community. My problem is we don't have a process. I think this was one that's for me, I need to hear the conversation about what surplus properties, the next presentation, before I start saying, okay, well, let's do this with this with this. So I'm certainly leaning towards going away for both that and what Councilmember Lasher brought up, but I need to hear, what do we do? Does anyone know right now? And I think I heard you say, we're developing a process so that what Councilmember Stanky does, they were just the first ones out of the gate. So for me, I'm just a little uncomfortable right now without having a process and having it laid out, but certainly I'm looking to support them. I don't know if that makes any sense to you. So it's just a little bit the cart before the horse for me. So I don't know if you hear where I'm going, but that's my comments.
Okay, thank you. I guess I'll jump in here real quick as well. I agree. First off, I support the initiative that Lee BIA is doing and wanting to do here in our city. But I too, like many of my colleagues, do believe we need to have a policy in place on how that application process is going to be. And the reason that I say that, we want to make sure that we're fair and consistent, no matter who the nonprofit is that's walking through the door. Now, today, we only had one additional person walk through that door, but there are going to be many others in the future, I'm sure. So before we go down that path, what I would like to see staff do is bring back a recommendation of what that policy is, how we're going to apply it, and have a discussion in a future committee of the whole meeting to basically give that green light on whatever that policy is going to be. Once the policy is in place, then whomever it is that comes forward, as long as they meet the criteria, I think that's question number one for all of us. They have met the criteria. And then it's easier for us to make that decision whether we're going to approve or deny it. So I think it's very important to have that process in place. And I think that we could do that in a very short time frame to be able to bring that back here soon. So if anyone wants to apply, whether it's the gentleman that spoke here today or any other nonprofits, at least that we know there's an application and a process in place. But with that being said, I would, support, as long as they meet the criteria that we established, to possibly being able to help them as well. I noticed the 10 parcels that were identified in your presentation. It sounds like Lee BIA this year is asking for 2. Is that correct?
Correct.
So that leaves 8 left over. So if this body gives a direction, and I think we will either in this presentation or in the next when we start talking about surplus properties, to take these 10 identified properties maybe for the next several years and say, okay, these are parcels that we can use for any of these types of initiatives. We've already identified them. So that's, for me, that's kind of how I see the process that works out. we as a council, maybe, because I think in this next presentation, we'll be discussing, hey, do we put these surplus properties up for sale that we don't have a city use for? And maybe we want to have a discussion at that time if we want to carve out the 10 properties that have been identified in this presentation. So with that, that's my comments. I will go over to Councilmember Kaduke. You haven't spoken yet, so I'll go to you before I go back to Councilmember Laster.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to confirm, and I believe I know the answer, but for the record, if these properties are now improved, unless it was a 100% disabled veteran, this would be bringing a tax base online. So for that reason, I fully support both organizations or people that came to speak. Because if we just sold the property, we could be taking a loss, which we've seen that happen before. But if we're donating them and then they're becoming improved property, then we have a tax base online. So, and we're doing good for the community for someone that's in need. So I support. Thank you.
Councilmember Laster.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree. We do need a formal process. I was a little surprised that we didn't have one. I would ask you all if you want me to work on that policy with Ms. Yearsley and our city attorney. I'm happy to do that, and I could do it pretty quickly, probably within the next 2 weeks. So I don't know if I need a second to do that, or if you all care or want that. I'd be happy to. I have a lot of experience, in my other life and line of work with things like this, what qualifies people for different grants and different assistance. Do I need a second to work on that, Mr. City Attorney?
To work on a policy, the creation of a policy by DSD staff? Is that what you're
Yeah,
asking?
like I would work with them to help them.
I mean, in theory,
Haven't we already given?
That's fine. Doesn't hurt.
Say again, I'm sorry, I
That's
can't hear
fine.
you.
Yeah, so a second would probably be appropriate.
Okay, can I get a second then, if you all
Second.
agree? Okay. Amy, you and I can set up a time next week and we'll knock this out really quickly. So does that mean, Mayor, just to clarify, that we're going to pause Builders Care and we're going to pause Mr. Jacobs until we get that process in place and both can appropriately apply? Is that what we're doing?
We're here today to talk about Builders Care. The other individual that came forward, wasn't a part of the agenda or the backup material.
Okay.
So I'll leave that to this council to
Okay.
decide
Okay.
whether we want to move forward with that, if we want to hold off on everything. That'll be a collective decision by this council.
Okay.
Councilmember Lehman.
Yeah, I want to basically take a sidestep. Mr. Ford, I was at the Builders Care building that they built over in Fort Myers, and I'm sure they have a criteria. So if possible, could he tell us about the criteria that they had? Because I know that was a disabled vet that did get that house. So I think we need to hear from them.
Yeah, if you'd like to come forward.
Is that a problem?
The discussion was for your organization today, so I have no problem if he wants to come forward and provide some input. While he's walking up, I know they have a criteria, and I respect that. I think what I've heard here from this council is we are looking for
We need a criteria,
Right.
but maybe with knowing what, say, Fort Myers or Builders Care criteria is, may help us
develop ours.
Develop our own.
Well, couldn't he just speak with Councilwoman Laster, who we just appointed this task to, and then save everybody the hassle, and we could review that at that point in time?
All right, Mr. Forbes, will give you the opportunity, since you were on the agenda here today, to have any discussion.
Thank you, Mayor. Council also have with me Ed Dawes, President of Builders Care.
Yeah, is the mic on?
Is it on? Oh, there we
There
go.
you go. It is now.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Also with me is Annette Nillis, who is a resident and owner in Cape Coral, and she's also chairman of our board this year for Builders Care. Been involved for Builders Care since its inception 21 years ago. We do have a thorough process in place where there's an application that the applicant has to to fill out. We also use, to find applicants, we also use members of the community council people. I know in Fort Myers, we worked with the American Legion over there and local city council people to identify people. They do go through a process to ensure that they can, when they occupy the home, there's a 10-year lien on the home we put on there, but we make sure that they can financially, maintain the home, that they can pay the taxes and so forth. But we have a good process in place, a thorough process in place to ensure that whoever gets the home is deserving and also can financially maintain it and pay for it. Be glad to answer any other questions.
Okay, thank you. And I guess Councilmember Laster, you can work with this organization, kind of like what Councilmember Long said. And
I'd be happy. They're a great organization to work with and happy to do it for y'all.
all right. Thank you very much. Mr. City Manager?
Thank you, Mayor. My question was, as we finalize the policy, the council will ratify, we'll find a place. I don't know if it'll be in the disposition of assets or real property or somewhere. Do you want us to come back with this or just run it through the process? So what is the goal for the disposition of this particular request? Do we want to put it on hold and bring it back, or do you want to just run it through the process as soon as council adopts it?
And you're talking about today's discussion with Lee BIA?
Correct. I think it would be good for the organization to know what to bring back to their board on what's happening with their specific request.
Okay, and I'm sure we can give you that direction here today. Councilmember Long?
That was it from the previous discussion, Mayor.
All right, Councilmember Steinke?
Yes, thank you. As it relates to the policy, obviously, I know that they have a qualification for the recipient of the home. I was also interested in having some type of a policy for us entertaining an organization like Builders Care approaching us for a property. Whatever their process is of identifying who is a worthy recipient of the house, certainly that would be one of the criteria, that they must have something like that in their application to us for us to consider them. To the mayor's point, more and more organizations could come to us and say, hey, we'd like you to entertain this. Well, we want to know about that organization, not just the recipient of the home. So the policy I'm hoping to see is, how do we assess the organization that's coming to us? And as we assess them, what is the criteria they use to identify a qualified candidate for the home?
Sure.
So just to be sure.
Crystal clear. Yeah. Staff has an existing vetting process we use with nonprofits on an annual basis with our CDBG program that we can probably just plug and play.
Okay.
Look at their tax returns, their financials, their history, how long they've been around, their board of directors, their makeup, all kinds of things. So.
All right, great. Thank you.
Councilmember Kilrain?
Yeah, I was going to bring up the same point as Bill did, and I think that's where we're headed here. Let's look for something that we have to be able to evaluate an organization coming forward. However, with the BIA builders, that was on the agenda for today. I think it's a no-brainer we move forward with them, and I would support doing them independent of having this policy and procedure, because it was on the agenda and we all reviewed it and had discussions here. So I'd be in favor of moving first with the Lee BIA even prior to doing that policy. So thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, I know we've worked with them, before. We've already vetted their organization. I know we've already had meetings and discussions about this initiative that they are putting forward. So for me, I'm comfortable doing that now, since that's what our discussion was here today. But also, and I think that'll be in a kind of a quick, short turnaround time, that Councilmember Laster will be able to bring something back to us. We have a CAL meeting in 2 weeks, I believe. So I can see this coming back fairly quickly. So I'm comfortable with moving forward, but that'll be a council discussion. I don't see any other lights on, so maybe we'll just go down the line here today. We'll start with Councilmember Donnell, Do we want to move forward with Lee BIA today, or do we want to wait till that adopted policy is brought back for discussion?
I understand the question you just asked me, but I have a different understanding of what the city manager said, which made sense to me.
All right.
What does that mean? I'm saying that this is not about the individual or the it. Well, I'm not talking about we get caught up in the who. I'm talking about the what. I'm hearing we're talking about policy. For me, we don't move as far as this one vote on anything until we have a policy. What I thought I heard him say was that, okay, we're going to develop the policy relatively quickly, and instead of them coming back, they're going to go ahead and run them through it. So in essence, that will be taking care of them and moving forward with BIA, who is here today. But my vote is not to approve anything before that policy is in place, with the understanding that they're going to move forward because they'll be the first ones to run through. I don't know if that makes sense to anybody,
It makes sense.
but that's where I am on it. All right. That's all.
Mr. City Manager, does that articulate what your ask was? Okay.
I agree, actually, with Councilmember Donnell. I love Builders Care. I think they do great work. I'm excited to partner with them and work with them. But I agree. I think in the spirit of transparency, we should probably have the policy in place before we just, wave our wand and hand it over to any organization, the WHO. I think that way we're more fair and consistent. Thank you, Mayor.
We need to have the policy first, because then, whether it be Builders Care, and I am familiar with Builders Care, whether it's Builders Care or Mr. Jacobs and the foster care situation, or any other group, we would have a set policy that
Your
would
mic
then,
on.
I'm sorry. We would have a set policy that would then make it a lot easier for any group to be able to apply and say, this is what I want to do. So yes, I'm in favor of having a policy first, because then it can all go right through.
I believe the same. I believe we have to have a policy before we make a decision, but I have two quick questions as we move in that direction. Amy, how did all of the properties that we're about to talk about in our next item, how did those get narrowed down to the 10 that you had set aside for today?
Okay. I had a feeling you were going to ask me that question. So I went through this last week. Luckily, my presentation is still on here from last week because we never cleared the thing off. So basically, this is the strategy. We basically utilized the strategy that we used for the triennial review list for affordable housing. This was what we do when we review the list of surplus property that Don's group has. So we identify that 1,700 plus properties that were listed as surplus. We looked at anything that has already been claimed by a different department for a specific use. We look for the right land use in the zoning, right? Single family. We look at buildable lots between 9,000 and 20,000 square feet. We eliminate waterfront properties. We remove things from the special flood hazard area. In that case, not necessarily on this list, but this was how we got narrowed down to the original 19 that we then took to the 9, because the 9 we took out special flood hazard area and larger lots. So the only difference between this is that we took out the larger lots, and so the larger lots and things in the special flood hazard area, if that makes sense.
Okay, thank you. And then assuming the policy is created, when this is brought back to us for a vote, will you have identified out of those 10, hey, these are the 2 we think we should give this organization, or is this going to be we go down the line and each of us pick what we think?
I don't think we're at a point of answering that now. I think what we need to do is identify the policy that would determine what period we're evaluating the property. So for affordable housing, it's triennial. I thought it was every 2 years, so apologize there. But then once we do that, then this is like a grant or a donation. We would then decide how many, when that period comes up, how many we want to put on there, and then we'd go through a ranking on there. But I don't want to say that we're going to be at a conclusion by the time we get here. I think that's getting too far into where you all might want to go with a policy.
Well, just for me, in one of 8 votes, I would rather you come to us and say, hey, they meet the criteria. Here are the properties that are available. We're recommending this one, or we're recommending these 2, just like we do others. And instead of everybody up here, voting for which property and whatnot.
I agree 100%, which means, and that's why when we work with Councilwoman Nelson Laster, we really need to separate the 2. The analysis is what goes into the pool, and then the awarding of the grant or the donation is separate.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I guess for me, I kind of agree with Councilmember Steinke. I think we as a council should identify parcels and almost have a bank of parcels. That way, if someone comes forward, that we have something to offer. For the next discussion, I have no problem carving these 10 parcels out that you've identified and developing that bank that I mentioned. To me, I'm hoping that this policy will come back fairly quickly. I'm comfortable either way with Lee BIA. I know they were back here on April 15th at a committee of the whole, provided a presentation that I think was favorable by this council to move forward. So I'm good either way. If a majority of my council wants to develop the policy first, I think hopefully it's only going to be about 2 weeks. I don't think that's a game changer for them. I think they can wait the 2-week period, and hopefully staff and Councilmember Laster can come up with something and bring it back to that committee of the whole meeting so we can continue moving forward as we are now. So like I said, I'm good either way, but if we want to wait 2 weeks until we develop that policy, I'm okay with that. I don't think that, it's not like it's 2 months. So if it's in a very short term, I think we can still achieve our goal and continue to have Lee BIA moving forward. Council member, I guess before, let's make sure we have a CAL meeting here in 2 weeks. When's our next CAL meeting? We
I
keep
pulled that-
saying 2 weeks, but that may not be the case.
Yeah, I pulled out our calendar and the next one is on September 9th.
All right, so that's what, about 3 weeks? 4 weeks? Let's see, what's today's date today?
Today's 11th.
That's
almost
about 4
weeks.
weeks away.
Yeah, it's 4
And I know you have a timeline. I'd like to hear maybe if I could ask a quick question from Lee BIA. If we waited 4 weeks for this policy, is that going to hinder your timeline that you've established up to this point? You're good?
Thank you.
All right, great. All right, Councilmember Kilrain?
Yeah, I'm on the same page as you, Mayor. I could go either way, but if it's not going to be an intolerant event for them to wait the 4 weeks, I'm okay with that too. So, thank you.
Yeah, let's get the policy in place first.
Policy.
Okay. Mr. City Manager, you get the direction you're looking for?
I did, thank you.
All right. I'd like to thank Lee BIA for coming today. Appreciate you guys here. We'll move on to item 3, surplus properties discussion. This was something I asked staff to bring back to us. I know we've been talking about this a few different instances over the last several months. I think the last time they were here, they hadn't identified properties that they had listed on their list of properties that could be utilized for the future for either city projects or properties that we felt that we should keep for a variety of reasons. So I'm glad to see this back up for discussion, and I'll turn it over to Ms. Andrews to start with.
Good morning, Mayor, City Council members. excuse me. Dawn Andrews with the Public Works Real Estate Division. We've brought forward the surplus property list. That list is the list that was presented in December of last year, on December 10th at a council meeting. There was discussion at that time. We had residential properties, and then there was some additional commercial properties on the list. It was determined that we needed to have the properties appraised because that's part of the surplus property. I'm sorry, that's part of our surplus ordinance under ordinance, Code of Ordinances, Section 2-155, where we determine what properties are no longer being used as a municipal purpose and or will be used in the foreseeable future. So that list was presented on December 10th, 2025 at a meeting. We got the commercial properties appraised. We were holding the residential properties until Amy's Affordable Housing Group could go through their review of properties. They presented that last week on August 5th. Those properties have been highlighted on the list that's in front of you. They're highlighted in yellow. We then took those properties on the residential and circulated them through the various departments and received some feedback as to what could be still utilized. Anything north of Pine Island Road, that's good for the utility extension program, possible lift stations, possible trades for a lift station in a close by area. And they were noted, all those properties are highlighted in blue. Earlier today, we had or late yesterday, we had some feedback regarding at the bottom of page 2, there's a 20-acre parcel which has been escheated over to the city. It's been looked at as a partnership with various people in talking about development through the city manager's office. Nothing's come to fruition. It is on the list as a possible potential surplus property. I did receive an email from Terry, the solid waste manager, stating that this is one of the, as you know, the city of Cape Coral's got small platted lots, very few large acreage tracts, right? So this 20-acre parcel in the southwest there is one of 3 remaining parcels that the disaster debris management site, that parcel was used for Ian, for I believe it was the horticulture. And so Terry wanted me to bring up that it's the largest of 3 sites that was used, for C&D debris from Hurricane Ian. And without this site, then the city is going to see an increase in recovery costs if we ever were to have another flooding event or disaster where we would have to travel longer distances to get to a site where we could put some C&D debris, because our next closest location is up at Pine Island Road and Andalusia Boulevard. We have the site that's up there.
Are you talking about the address at 1200 Southwest 30th Street?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right.
So I'll stand by for questions. I didn't know if there was additional information you needed about sites. I provided the commercial sites. I had location maps. There was a PDF of all those locations, and then there was an overall map that cited all of the properties that were presented in December.
And I don't see it listed on the spreadsheet that you had provided, the parcels that you listed here that are not for possible future city use. Do we have a dollar amount total for the remaining lots as far as the values that you've and the appraisals that you've listed?
So the residential properties, we didn't go back through and analyze all of the properties to get a more current value. An appraisal would be needed to determine market values when they're being brought forward for being declared surplus. That's part of the ordinance steps. I'm not sure I understand what other properties that aren't being used. This is this list. There are some escheated properties that are not on here. I stuck with the list that was provided from December of 2025. I don't have how many of those parcels are. I just worked with this one.
Okay. All right. Seeing no lights on, I guess, and since I brought this forward, I'll comment first. My goal was to identify properties that the city owns that we don't have a need for. And I didn't sit here and add up all these properties, but just real quickly, just doing the numbers, we're over 3 million just sitting there. If we don't have a purpose for it that's identified, why, and as Councilmember Kaduke spoke earlier, we need to get these on the tax roll. To have, $3 to $4 million in properties just sitting there and we're not getting any ad valorem tax, we don't have a use for it. That, to me, that makes no sense. So for me, and we keep having this discussion, as you heard, we were back here in December, here we are again. I'm glad staff had taken a look at these parcels and identified any future uses that the city may have and had noted that in the blue on the spreadsheet. The yellow on the spreadsheet is the housing that we have identified for the affordable housing. And then Amy had identified 10 additional parcels in our previous conversation that may be able to use for partnerships with nonprofits. So for me, those 10 parcels, and it's my understanding, those parcels are part of this list.
On page 1, all of the ones that were presented in the presentation just prior are properties that are listed on page 1. I didn't highlight them or anything at that time. There's a couple left.
Yeah, I see 19 on the list.
Right.
And you've identified 10. So I'm comfortable taking those 10 parcels, setting them to the side until we develop this policy and see what we're going to do. But the remaining parcels, if they do not have a future city use, that we direct the city manager to list these properties for sale. In addition to that, the parcels that are noted that they need a survey or need to be subdivided because some of these parcels are larger. I think we need to give the direction to the city manager to get the surveys completed, do these, subdivide those parcels as needed. If they are 10 buildable lots on one large parcel under one strap, then separate them to 10 or whatever the case may be. So we can separate those lots and go ahead and get them out, as a standard buildable lot. Lastly, not knowing the information that was brought forward on the 1200 Southwest 30th Street parcel, which is a 28-acre parcel. Right now, that particular parcel, if you look at the zoning and future land use, is either residential multifamily low or single family multifamily when it comes to future land use. When I looked at that location of that parcel and where it is within the city, knowing that, number one, it's a larger parcel, and number two, knowing that we still need some additional sites for our youth athletic organizations in our city. One example, I know we have a dire need for additional soccer fields. I can't tell you how many times we've been contacted by a variety of organizations that stated, hey, look, we need more soccer fields. I'm not familiar with the softball. I'm not familiar with baseball, but it is in close proximity to the Pelican fields that we already have already. So I would like to see us utilize that parcel or rezone it, for our parks for future youth organizations that may be able to utilize that additional fields, whether it's baseball, soccer, football, whatever the case may be. I think that would be a great parcel since it is 20 acres. Now, in the meantime, if that's something that this council wants to utilize for debris pickup, I've always had a real problem personally when even though I know it's for a temporary, but some of us here on council have been around a while, whether it's Hurricane Irma, Hurricane Ian, when we utilize these types of parcels in close proximity to single family homes, we get a lot of complaints. When you heard out the parcel on Pine Island Road near Andalusia, kind of commercial or open, there's not an impact to the residential structures right around it. If you pull this particular parcel up on Google Earth, it's completely surrounded by single family. So I have a little bit of an issue with possibly using that for future. If that means we got to haul the debris a little further down the road, even if it may cost us a little more, but it doesn't impact a residential neighborhood like this would, I do have a little bit of a concern with that. But more importantly, the 20 acres I think could be used for future parkland. So I would exclude that from giving the city manager direction on issuing those particular parcels for sale. So for me, the residential or the commercial, as long as it hasn't been identified for affordable housing or hold for future city use, or the 10 parcels that were identified in the future presentation or the previous presentation, I would give the city manager direction to put those parcels up for sale and go through the process and let our real estate team move forward with that. So that's my position on that. Councilmember Kilrain.
Yeah, very similar to what the mayor just described. I mean, strategically, it's a nice way to develop some cash, and especially in this next period of time, we're going to need it. To the extent that we held back on those properties as the mayor just described, and I think it's an excellent idea for that 20 acres too. But let's go ahead and move forward. I would suggest very similar to what the mayor said. Let's just hold back on those that we have already identified as wanting to hold. And let's get the others ready for sale and get some cash. So that's where I'm at. Thank you.
Councilmember Donnell.
Yeah, at first glance, it's a no-brainer. But my concern would be for those that will still be here, staff that'll be here down the road in the future. Because all of us will be gone at one time, but you all will still be here. My question would be, the ones that we're talking about, have there been any analysis down the road? And I'm talking about our 10, 20-year plan as to the ones that currently don't have a use that's been identified. Has there been an analysis there might be a need for it in the future? Has there been that discussion at all? Or if I had to just make it very concise, if we were to do what it's in the trend to put it out, what impact would that have when we're long and gone? Would it have, what impact? Are we doing a disservice to the city down the road because we have it now?
Dawn can talk about what she's done for these specifics, but generally, whenever we look at our land holdings, we're looking with the police department, the fire department, public works, parks and recreation. It's across the interdepartmental analysis of both current and future needs and trying to identify, do we have properties that meet those needs now? If not, this could become a disposition list, but we also have an acquisition list of critical and crucial properties for future fire stations, future parks, future boat ramps, future, easements and pipes, so it's a give and a take. as we go through it, but I'll let her explain to you how she gets to the list. But yes, an interdepartmental analysis is performed.
So as we've acquired properties for various needs, they're put on that list of 1,700 parcels. And parcels meaning strap numbers. And we've got, as I mentioned in the December, Councilmember Kadouk had asked a question. And so it sounds like we have a lot of parcels, but there's 517 parcels in Festival Park that are going to be assembled together, and that 1,790 parcels will go down by that amount, 103 in Lake Mead. So as we strap the parcels together, the parcel list goes down, but all of the parcels that are in the city's ownership are identified on a larger spreadsheet. And if we're not, like on one of the parcels, we ended up building Fire Station 2 down the street here on Nicholas. We had bought a different property, and that's on your commercial list over here just off of the Skya. And so now that's been identified, everybody's looked at it, different department directors. So I've sent it to utilities, parks, public works, the various sub-managers within public works, and everybody's gone through and then provided their comments. And so the vetting of the properties is a major part of one of the steps before moving forward. Once we identify what could be disposed of, and then it's set through all the departments for another look because they were received for certain reasons to begin with.
So the bottom line for a person, you all, I lean on you all. We have a professional staff. So am I hearing you say that, yes, we've run it through and you all are comfortable with this, putting it out because you don't see a need for it as we move forward? That's just the bottom line.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. You didn't answer my question. So I'm okay with it. That makes a lot of sense, what Councilmember Kadouk said. So I'm on board with that. Thank you. That's all.
Councilmember Steinke.
Thank you, Mayor. With our desire to increase the amount of commercial tax base that we have versus residential tax base, has there been any consideration, certainly not of the residential lots that are on interior neighborhoods, but the residential lots that might be on some of our larger arterial roadways like Chiquita and whatnot? Has there been any consideration of moving them to commercial to give more opportunity for commercial entities to come in, whether it be commercial professional, doctor's offices?
So
before we sell them.
Right.
I'm not opposed to selling them, just saying, what do we sell it as? And if we're at a loss for commercial properties here, can we serve two purposes by actually converting it to a commercial property to be sold as commercial, inviting that commercial tax base that we're trying to grow?
So typically, we had a couple that were on Skyline, and those are on that third page, and they had the commercial. So it was either on Skyline or on the back side of the property that fronted on Skyline. And so those already had the commercial zoning or a commercial professional land use. For the most part, we haven't flipped any properties or changed zonings on them. But it typically, if it's on a main road, it's already been zoned that. And a lot of our residential properties are off of the main road deep into a neighborhood, a couple of blocks off of the main north-south or east-west boulevards.
Okay. Yeah, I'm in support of listing them for sale as has been discussed. Although I would just say take an extra step just to take a look if there's any of those residential properties on major thoroughfares that we ought to look to switch to commercial before we sell them.
We can do that. Yes, sir.
Thanks.
Okay, I guess that's all the lights I have on, so I guess we'll have to go down the list here. And so staff has a clear direction. I think only a couple of us have spoken, so we'll start with Councilmember Kaduka this time.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I am for listing the surplus properties for sale. And just to be clear, we have acquired these properties how?
So the majority of the residential properties is deeded over to the city. People weren't paying their taxes because they have assessments against them. And so a lot
Thank
of
you, Dawn.
them.
I just wanted it on the record. I know how, but I
Oh.
wanted people to know,
Okay.
and that will continue to happen. So let's sell what we have. Thank you.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, as I stated before.
Yep, same for me.
Same.
Give it direction, Mr. City Manager.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to the next item of discussion, the LDC Section 7.3.1D feather banners. If I recall correctly, Councilmember Kaduka, you brought this forward, so I'll give you the floor to start with.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm looking forward to staff's presentation, and we did have a speaker during citizens input speak about this particularly, and she is correct. It is carved out for home builders, and that's kind of what I wanted the discussion to be around. If we're inviting apartment buildings and complexes to come into town and we are encouraging that, we should allow them to have the same use. So I'm looking forward to Amy's discussion. Thank you.
Okay, turn it over to staff.
Good morning, once again, for the record, Amy Yearsley with the City Planning Division. A little background on this, and I'm probably going to go off script a bit because I think historical context is always important in a discussion. In around 2011, 2012, a stakeholder group was put together to look at the city's sign regulations. This was after the Great Recession, and it really was becoming a wild west of signs out there. Temporary signs everywhere you looked, and it wasn't just the private industry. In some cases, it was the city with their events. It was everyone. A lot of carve-outs had happened during that time for extra sandwich boards, things like that. So we put together the stakeholder group, and it really significantly changed how we regulated temporary signage at that time. In particular, human signs, sign waivers, snipe signs, feather banners, etc. And that's when you saw the introduction regarding feather banners at that time. That was in 2013. Sign regulations are hard to do. And the minute that you put together a sign ordinance, it's outdated because technology related to marketing and the mechanisms that they utilize are constantly changing. So if you're not actually opening your sign code very often, sometimes you get behind. So we realized in 2013, we passed the sign code, and in 2014, we were already looking at it again. And specifically, that group was put together with the then city manager, a diverse group of different industries, the Chamber of Commerce, the builders, our city special events staff, a number of people. And they really looked at two things, basically A-frame signs and feather banners. And how those kind of stakeholders worked at that time was those groups came together, they got to what was consensus. In this case, it wasn't 100% consensus, but they really decided between feather banners and A-frame signs. And at that time, the feather banners got really narrowly tailored, to model homes. They were only approved with a model home special exception use. It wasn't just, I'm building a house, I can put a feather banner out there. You had to have a special exception use. And A-frame signs were then significantly regulated as far as their location and things like that. Fast forward to 2015, we had significant our Supreme Court ruling related to signage at a federal level with Reed versus the town of Gilbert, which resulted in us ultimately redoing our sign code in 2019 again to meet those requirements under the new Supreme Court ruling. And you really lost a lot of the temporary signage that you used to have. We used to regulate everything from garage sales to construction site sales to real estate sign sales. One thing had its own category. Now we can only do it by time, place, and manner. That's the only way. No content, nothing. So these are the different types. These are the restrictions currently regarding feather banners. Again, only with a special exception for a model home. There's a sign limitation, there's a number limitation, there's a maintenance limitation, a duration limitation. And so all of those things are in there currently. We do allow for other temporary signage as an alternative to the feather banners. In addition to them, we have freestanding temporary signage that is dependent on your zoning district. We allow for banners. We allow for inflatables, be it the sign wavy guy or a balloon of some sort, or even miniature balloons. So in the A-frame signs. So today the discussion is really, does the city want to re-examine the allowance of feather banners for multifamily complexes? At this time, staff is recommending against any changes to the current regulations for feather banners. And there's really one kind of reason behind that is, again, once you start opening it up to carve outs as you move through, you're going to start seeing this for other people. New businesses that are just opening up in the next 60 days, things like that. So it really it could be a slippery slope, could be. So that's why we're recommending against it. So I'm available for any comments.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Kadouk.
Thank you, Mayor. So with that being said, to me, a model home is also an apartment, right? You need to go see and walk around an apartment building to see exactly what you're living in. So I don't see how that's any different. And also, you just said new businesses. Why wouldn't we how would you know a new business is open without a sign saying now open? So I don't see why we couldn't have something that's for 30 days once they open saying now open. I used to sell advertising. That was super important. I mean, I don't think that we should be littering the city, but I think there are ways to regulate it where it's grand opening or now open for 30 days, and there shouldn't be an issue with that. Thank you.
Councilmember Kilrain.
Yeah, you mentioned the Supreme Court ruling, and it restricted us in what we did, or we curtailed what we were doing. Could you elaborate on what that was, the nature of that?
Sure. Better try to go back to my land use law, and I'm going to look desperately at Alex a little bit at this. So it was, I think, February of 2015, Reed versus the Town of Gilbert. I think it's Arizona. And it was related to temporary signage for, I believe it was a church. And it had everything to do with, they believed that they were being discriminated based on the content of their signage, right? Because they were advertising Sunday services. So basically what the Supreme Court ended up doing was saying that you cannot regulate signage based on content. So if you have a definition in your code that says real estate sign, well, you're looking at a real estate sign, you're looking at the content, right? Or a construction site with a builder on it, people are reading what's there, right? So you can only regulate based on time, how long it can be there, place, it can be on this type of site versus that type of site, or manner as being how you're displaying that. And so you really had to narrowly tailor all of those different signs to kind of smaller categories, which is why you went from garage sale signs, real estate signs, builder signs to other temporary signs.
Okay, from a constitutional citizen standpoint, I'm in support of that. I'm just going to make a general comment here, though. I think that some of the stuff that's happening out there today from a political standpoint is disgusting. And it talks to the character, the placement of those signs as opposed to the nature of what's on the signs. It's just horrible what we're seeing in the city right now. But that's neither here nor there. With respect to expanding it to other commercial applications like rentals, I think that there's basis for doing that. I'd be in support of that. So thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Steinke.
Thank you, Mayor. We had a really good discussion on this in my meeting with staff this week, and there's definitely a difference between a building that has rentals in it and a complex that is continually offering them. And so the reason why a builder has those signs at a model home is to let those drivers by know that that's not just a residence, that they can actually go in and see something that they may want to have built for themselves. As we deal with the affordability crisis that we have, and the fact that people need housing for different reasons. They need it for temporary. They're not going to buy a home, but they need a place to live for a year or for 2 years. We need those types of available housing options in our community. If we want those types of housing options available, we want the people that own and run them to be successful. And for them to be successful, people that drive by need to know that there's availability. As we deal with the feather banners that are allowed for model homes, there are regulations around when they can display them. They can display them when there is someone there at the model home to display the home to those passersby, if you will. And so the feather flags go out when that staff person comes on duty, and then when they are off duty, those feather flags go down. I think that same thing should be allowed for the multifamily operations that are out there that have someone on staff. When they come to work, they can put them up to invite the public to come in and see the unit that they could rent that's there. And then when that staff leaves, they have to take those flags down. Just like it would be for a single family home, you offer the same thing for a multifamily rental. If it's totally rented and they have no one on staff and no one there at that building, then they can't have feather flags because you're not inviting the public in to see it at that time. So I wouldn't be in favor of having feather flags available just to say, hey, rentals, dial this telephone number. I would not be in favor of that, but I would be in favor of applying the same type of logic to the multifamily as we do to the single family, because it certainly meets a housing need that we have. And we need to, in my opinion, we need to do what we can to make sure that those owners of those housing options have the same opportunity for success as the builders have for success in building single family homes. Thanks.
Councilmember Laster.
Thank you, Mayor. I concur. I do feel like, how else are people going to know if these multifamily residential facilities are available for rent? I guess I look at it a little differently in that it doesn't bother me if they stay up. Like, I wouldn't say you have to put them up, take them down, put them up, take them down every day. I would say keep them up in a multifamily situation until, as Councilmember Steinke said, everything's rented, then it would come down, then it would come down. So I don't really have a problem with those feather banners at all, because I think they're helpful to allow, residents who are new to the city or having to change their housing, be able to know that something's available. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, seeing no other lights on for me, I really don't have a problem if it's at the multifamily, as long as the rules are applied equally. I think we have to be equally applying those rules. When I look at the regulations today, like Councilmember Steinke said, there has to be someone on site between the hours of 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. Monday through Sunday. If that particular person, it's not staffed, the model home's not open, then all feather banners shall be stored inside. So I agree. I have no problem if it's at a multi-family residential site, as long as the rules are identical to what we have today. to the multifamily if they have a unit that's available, as long as the individual, the property manager is there, and there's someone there that can speak to an individual to stop if they see the signs. That's why you put them out there. I don't think they should be left up there continuously overnight, 7 days a week. So the same rules should apply. That's where I'm at. I see no other lights on. I don't think we've heard from everybody. Mr. City Manager, what?
Oh, yeah, I just pushed my light. I have 5, which would be enough for consensus to move towards amending the ordinance to allow the temporary sign ordinance to allow multifamily to be treated like model homes. I realize there's differing opinions about how long and the criteria. So based on the limited discussion and not seeing a plurality there, we'll just expand the use to multifamily, leave everything intact. And if there's further debate about that when it's presented, you all can debate that.
I think that's good for now.
Everybody good with that? All right. All right, sounds good. Sounds like we got a plan. All right, let's move on to the next item of agenda is the West Cape Estates. I believe the city attorney brought this forward, so I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to at least set a little guardrails and some ground rules that I think are important. As you heard, their lawyer is in fact present. I have provided you documentations regarding the position of the city. I know that there's been discussions that I've had with all of you regarding this matter, which should not be disclosed. I would also mention to you that we shouldn't be litigating this matter. We shouldn't be debating this matter in the public. That would be inappropriate. That would put us potentially in an adverse position in the event that you do authorize me to take some type of legal action. So I would caution you on that. We are here today because the Director of Utilities has formally notified the community back in February of this year that they are required to connect to wastewater and potable water system of the city of Cape Coral. It is available. They had retained a lawyer. That lawyer had remitted correspondence to the city. I believe it was in April or May of this year. I have responded to that. These documents are available to you all. I have provided you all those documents, and they're also available for the public to see. I want you to all to be mindful of the fact that this is really whether or not you are granting the city attorney's office the authority to pursue whatever legal means are necessary and appropriate to mandate that the community connects to the city system. And I caution you in regards to saying things that may not be in the best interest of the city, because those words can in fact be utilized adversely in the event that I do have to actually formally file something before a circuit court. So I would just be mindful of that. I just need to know whether or not you are giving me that authority through my office, or if not. If you are not prepared, based upon what I have provided to you, based upon my conversations with you, based upon what you've heard from the city manager, and he will say something, I'm not going to speak on his behalf. I would rather not have that conversation in public. I would rather have meetings scheduled with you all to discuss potential legal issues that you may have, or even factual issues that you may have. This is not the time really to do that. And I would just remind you that I'm trying to keep the guardrails very, very tight. And I know that's very difficult to do, but because we are in the situation that we are, I have no other alternative but to bring it all before you publicly, because I have no other alternative to speak with you as a collegial body and granting me the direction that I need. I've identified it in the agenda cover memo. It's either the second to last paragraph or the last paragraph. So, and with that, I will then ask the city manager. I think he has a few words that he would like to say as well. And with that, we can go from there. But from my perspective, what I am asking, based upon what I have been provided from administration, I am seeking your direction to pursue whatever means is necessary in order to ensure that West Cape Estates community connects to the city's system, which is presently available at their entryway. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. For the purposes of the request by the city attorney, I think it's important for you all to know that as from an administrative perspective, we don't see, and we've exhausted the years that it's taken to try to get the community to connect. There was some discussion about setting precedent for moving forward. I will read off a list to you. Heatherwood Lakes, Trafalgar Woods, Blue Water Coach Homes, Sandoval, Stonewater, Hudson Creek, Bella Vita, Entrada, Tarpon Point, Emerald Cove, Coral Lakes, the Hermitage, and Cape Harbor. All of them are gated communities. All of them are in the service area where we've brought utilities, and all of them are provided centralized water and sewer services. So to the extent that we deviate from that, West Cape Estates would be the precedent setting. I will point out that there are 3 more gated communities in the Northwest: Kismet Lakes, North Cape Estates, and La Vida Estate, all in Northwest Cape, that are intended on, in the future, hooking up to centralized water and sewer. Most of the agreements are negotiated at the time with the developer, and the developer makes the determination of whether or not they're passing that on or they're putting it in. But from administration's perspective, all of our gated communities are served by centralized water and sewer, and we have exhausted our ability through administrative remedies to seek compliance. Thank you.
Councilmember Laster.
So just to clarify, Mr. City Attorney, you want a yes or no? No back and forth discussion, just a simple yes or no?
The yes or no would be authorizing the city attorney's office to initiate all appropriate legal action to force the West Cape Community Association to connect to the city's wastewater and potable water system.
And you stated, should we belabor this, debate it, it's not in the city's best interest to do that at this time. It is not appropriate, correct?
I wouldn't recommend doing that because I have seen words being utilized in adversely in my previous positions against the city in that regard.
Understood. With that said, and the research that I've done and everything you just stated, Mr. City Manager, the answer to that question for me would be yes. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Steinke.
Thank you, Mayor. I heard during citizens input something I'm not sure that I heard it right, and maybe you could just speak to it. And it's history with the initial developer going belly up, and who is in control right now. I thought I heard them say that there was no requirement of the new developer, if you would, to abide by what the initial developer was required to agree to, which was to hook up to city utilities when they came through. Is that allowable? In my experience, that's not allowable. When someone takes over in a circumstance like that, they have to abide by what was approved in that location. Is it required of a subsequent developer to abide by the original rules that the original developer had agreed to?
The city's position in regards to that is that does not alter the legal analysis, and they are still required to connect without getting into the specifics, but we disagree with that legal position.
Okay, thank you. Then The slippery slope that I see is the precedent it would set. All those that have come before are required. That's how the actual cost per unit is determined, for people to be able to pick and choose whether they want to or they don't want to. It's never been allowed in the past, and I don't believe we should allow it in the future. So my answer would be yes as well.
Councilmember Lehman?
Yeah. I think the one thing I'm questioning, and I don't know where we're going to get the answer to it, this, during citizens input, when people were talking about $150,000 to connect, where's this $150,000 coming from? Does anybody have any kind of a breakdown or what it is? Because it just seems to me, if we've required the rest of the city when city water and sewer has come through, it's got to be the same throughout the city. We can't do special groups. Otherwise, we're going to have that up in the Northwest and Northeast where people are going to say, well, hey, you let them do it. Why can't we do it? But I guess the thing is, what I'm questioning is this $150,000 that people are saying it's going to cost them to connect. That doesn't make sense to me. Can anybody, Mr. City Manager, do you know what this is coming from or where this figure is from?
Councilmember Lehman, I don't, while I understand where your concern, I don't want that to be the basis by way of which you make your decision. And the reason why I'm saying that to you is it has no legal bearing nor applicability as to whether or not the city has the legal authority to mandate the connection. It's not based upon monetary value of the work to be completed, nor the SEAC fee that would be necessarily paid for that connection. It is just a matter of whether or not we have the legal authority to mandate the connection. The cost associated with that is something that's going to have to be borne by the individual homeowners and or the association, which they could have commenced the process, if I'm not mistaken, from the message that I received from Mark Mason was in 2020. So here we are 6 years later having this discussion. So I don't want that to be the focus, nor do I want that to be the red herring by way of which that there is a chink in the armor necessarily behind why it is that we're here today.
No, and it's not. As far as I'm concerned, if we are requiring, if it's mandatory hookup in all the other gated communities, not to mention the standalone single-family homes, it's got to be a uniform thing across the city. If it's mandatory for one, it's mandatory for all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Long?
Yeah, I think Councilmember Lincoln, to your point, and you just kind of were asked that, and from a legal standpoint, being an attorney myself, I can appreciate his position, but he's asking you to take the human element out of the decision, right? $150,000, for example, is a cost. The real short version of that is because it's not into the city's assessment, where that volume creates a lower fee. Because they're a private homeowner community, they're responsible for constructing and maintaining their own UEP essentially, and then meeting us at the street. So that $150,000 is the cumulative total of what they've been provided by a private contractor and then distributed amongst the 27 or 28 lots in that home. So that's the thing. And so we're not necessarily talking about apples to oranges when it comes to, well, everybody has to hook up. Because of that alone, I mean, that's an exorbitant cost regardless of income brackets or what have you, valuation of property. But then you take into fact, well, we look at some of the decisions that we make that were the precipice of the UEP, the wells, for example. I think some of the individuals here that spoke said, well, they're on a specialized well system, which to a certain degree eliminates that environmental concern. And I don't know whether that quote is accurate, and I'm not saying we should make our decision on that, to his point, but if that's $50,000 per homeowner just for these wells that they've already, septic, to put forth, they've already paid an exorbitant amount, typically in excess of probably what the assessment amount is in of itself. So when you put that together with the fact that it eliminates at least that part of the UEP justification with regards to the health and welfare. And then you bundle in that it also is going to add on another $150,000 to each homeowner, which, by the way, that doesn't go on their tax roll like the UEP does, where it could be distributed over 30 years. That's a private developer that needs that money up front. So now some of these individuals are in a situation where they had a $150,000 bill they owe today. They may not have equity in the home that allows them to put it on their mortgage. So those are the human elements that I'm talking about. And that could be applied even to the traditional UEP on a smaller scale. But all of that, by the way, so now we're at $200,000 with the advanced septic and the $150,000 per lot. They also have to pay a SEAC fee to the city, which we got an email this morning. So after they front the bill for their own development, we're basically also fronting the bill for the city's development. So Mr. Mason sent us those figures this morning, although they were a little skewed. The figure that he provided was basically $21,000 that they would be paying on top of those two figures I already cited you. Well, that's for a standard lot. These are larger lots, so that now doubles. So they'd be looking at paying about $44,000 to the city for the privilege to hook up after they've already paid $150,000 to their private developer to abide by these ordinances. So there's nuances here. So I can appreciate the precedent. I can also appreciate the fact that in previous instances, like the city manager cited, everybody else has done it and they have to do it. But what we're really deciding on here is, do we want to sue the citizens to comply? And if there's violations and ordinances that we have and they're not complying, traditionally, that's what you should do. But what we should be talking about, and hopefully you guys have done that privately with the city attorney, I don't want to do that here, is will we be successful in this endeavor? Because what staff doesn't do typically, and we bear the brunt of it, is that they don't factor in that human element. So when it gets out in the media that we're suing these individuals, that's not great. It gets out in the media that these individuals are going to be paying upward of $200,000 for water to comply with these standards, that's not great. But then when we lose too, if we lose, that's really not great because we paid a significant amount of money to go to that lane. So maybe we shouldn't have that discussion here for the reasons he cited, but those are things that I think we also should consider that maybe haven't been presented to you when you look at the way the ordinance is drafted. And he didn't draft this ordinance, so it's not an indictment on him. The 200 feet thing, that's probably a loser in every circumstance outside of the people that are directly within 200 feet of the road. So is that something we want to litigate? I don't know. Those are the decisions that we need to be making before we just say, yeah, go ahead, because it's easy to say that based on the information that we've been provided. And then all hell reigns loose on this council because we've decided to move forward with litigation that maybe we didn't have all the information on when we decided to proceed with. So that's, to me, we need a lot more information. We've been led into litigation before without maybe some of these decisions. So you think about the three fishermen, wasn't great, also didn't win, also spent money. The cease and desist letters to a lesser degree got beat up a lot for what ultimately turned out to be no real reason. So careful when we move forward with a decision like this, because I can also tell you for those figures that I cited, if each homeowner's looking at $200 and something thousand, they're not going to mind spending the money to litigate this thing all the way to the end, which is going to ultimately cost our taxpayers more as well. Thanks, Mayor.
Yeah, for me, I guess, seeing, I haven't spoken on this topic yet. To me, I think we have to be fair and consistent across the board. To me, if you're fair and consistent across the board, I think then we can articulate and make an argument why we made a decision, why we did. And when you look at this, and I won't get into too many specifics, when I say fair and consistent across the board, that's a two-way street. That's not a one-way street. So I don't know exactly what we've done, what we haven't done for other types of developments. When you read the PDP, to me, it's fairly crystal clear. But I think, and to the point that Councilmember Long made, where people's already put in the wells in the septic, every single person in UEP, we could line them up down the street. They're going to make that same argument.
Advanced wells and septic.
So what I think is important is to stay fair and consistent. I think, and again, that's a two-way street. We have to see exactly what that means when you're being fair and consistent. And that's how we move forward. Because I'm sure that we could, if we approve one particular person or community that, hey, you don't have to hook up, boy, the lines will be out the door and down the street. Everybody's going to have a different argument. And we can't open, in my opinion, we cannot open up that Pandora box. So for me, to answer the city attorney's question, just stay the course. Councilmember Kilrain, have you spoken?
Yeah, I haven't talked.
All right, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor.
Then I'll go to you.
I'm glad we weren't going to talk about this. But basically, I learned a long time ago, if my strong professional attorney is giving me advice to keep my mouth shut, I keep my mouth shut. And I've reviewed all the documents, and the way I approach these things is I denature it. I make sure that I wipe out what the ownership is and who it might be, and just let the governing documents rule. And I've been through those documents, and I have received enough bruises in these kind of battles to understand that I'm going to yield to the attorney at this point and allow him to do what he needs to do. And I'm sure if there's an issue that comes up, and I appreciate Councilman Long's approach and discerning the human factors involved in that kind of process and the risk element. I would expect that somewhere upon the pursuit of this, that we're going to hear back from the attorney, and we'll handle it at that time as to what the next step might be. So I would certainly, with full confidence, give the attorney the opportunity to proceed. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Donnell.
Yes, you all have been here since 9 o'clock. When here speaking, Lord knows I don't want to speak, but that's just not, I don't think that's right. I just wanted to let you hear from me. I was here, this whole UEP thing, a lot of people think that we just say things and don't hear you. I hear you, I've gone over it, I'm sure my colleagues haven't. These are the one things that just, I don't sleep well with it because I get it, and I put myself in your shoes. So I don't want you to think that when we're voting for me, that it's just, oh, whatever. This is the ones, and I've been with this UEP even when we stopped this. This is the one that I don't like. So I just want you to know that I have reviewed it. I understand what's going on here. Unfortunately for you, I want you to hear that I will be voting to support to move forward with what this attorney has put on the table. And I just want you to know that. That's all.
Councilmember Lastra.
Councilmember Long, you always do that. You always such the attorney. So I have a question. Do we have any opportunities that we could, or have we, like in the, Mr. City Manager, in the communities that you mentioned previously, did we do anything to assist those residents like we do at, in Kaltoma Caduceus districts that's going through UEP now? I think she says she paid $38,000 right after having a baby. Yay. Is there anything we can do to these private developments to spread their payments out, or they have to pay for this? Like we don't, it's like what Councilmember Long said, they have to pay for their own private contractor to connect this. I mean, is there anything we can do as a city to assist them if they don't have the $150,000 right up front?
Yes, we have gone into private developments and done an assessment and levied an assessment that could be put on the tax bill. So if they did not want to handle the administration and the work, we, as an outcome of some this settlement, we could handle the assessment, manage the work, and then put it on their tax bill.
Have we offered that to them in the last 6 years that they could? Okay, they're shaking their heads no. Can we do that before we just say, yes, let's move forward? I mean, I agree. We have to be fair and consistent because we can't
Sounds
have.
like we're litigating.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't want to litigate. I don't want to do that. Sorry.
And just so I've got consensus from a majority of the council. I want you to know that my first act would be to speak with the attorney.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, I really would rather come to a amicable
Perfect.
resolution.
Okay, that's all. That's it. Thank you, Mayor.
Seeing no other lights on, you got the direction you're looking for?
Yes, Mayor.